welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Authentic and The Beard. The best television on, or the best show not on TV, but let's keep it funky here. We're talking about two of the hardest working SOBs in the business right now, man. I had a busy day, and this busy day is not coming to a conclusion quite just yet. So let's get right into it, man. Bring the Beard in here one time, man. My brother from another mother, the left side to the strong side duo. Mr. Beard is in the building. What's going on, dog?
Wow, man, it's good. You know, big shout out to Keith, Vintage Sport Flips. He just popped in.
Yo, man, I meant to give him a shout out on the last show, and I could not remember Keith's name. It was so terrible, bro. But shout out to Keith one time in the building, man. Definitely been holding us down. We got to get the trivia back popping. I know it's been a couple of busy weeks, but we got to get the trivia back popping for sure, man. Definitely digging them vintage shark hat vibes you got going on right now. Where'd you pull that one?
I got it from Vintage Sport Flips, Keith.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Nah,
Big
but I'm ready.
Keith,
I'm so ready, obviously, because there's a lot on the line for both of our teams as far as pride goes going into this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how both of us bounce back. I'm excited to talk about that game. Eagles, obviously, you know, they're going to Atlanta. There's a lot of talk about Kirk Cousins and that matchup right now, just Kirk Cousins in general. Our boy Michael Penix feeling a little like he might be playing sooner rather than later.
Saw that tweet today. I was like, yeah, it's looking pretty good for my boy Penix one time, man. That could make fans feel really good or really bad about not going after Michael Penix with the 6th selection, especially for the Giants here.
Yeah, and then obviously the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that Browns team, the more and more I look at it, that was rough for the Browns. And they lost. They're going to have no Myles Garrett, no Nick Chubb, and no Njoku.
Is Myles Garrett ruled out this week?
I think so. I think I just saw that on Twitter right before we went live. So that's it's another blow for those Cleveland Browns. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, the Saints played the Panthers last week. Now they're playing the Cowboys. So we got 3 good NFC East matchups for this week. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, man. Big shout out to the gang in the building, man. We got a lot to go over today, man. I'm looking forward to just getting right to this one, man. And let's start this one off with the Saints, man. You know, traveling to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Both of these teams 1-1, man. Let's get right to it. All right, man. Kickoff for this one is Monday night at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Cowboys are favored by 6.5.
No, this is Sunday night.
Oh, it's Sunday night.
Sunday
okay.
Sunday 1 o'clock. Monday night is Eagles and Falcons.
Oh, is it? I got those flip-flopped then. I got to correct that. The over-under in this one is 45.5. Last week, the Saints beat the Panthers like they stole something. 47-10 in that one. The Cowboys beat the Browns like they stole a little 5-finger discount or something, 33-17. Last meeting between these two teams, the Cowboys did beat the Saints 27-17. That was in 2021, so it's been a while since these two teams have seen each other. Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback for that game, threw 4 interceptions in that one, and I think that's probably the reason why we're not seeing Taysom Hill get snaps at quarterback too much. Dak Prescott, not that impressive in that game, but definitely had a pretty good one, 26 of 40 for 238, a touchdown and an interception. Got some injuries in this game. Marshawn Lattimore coming in questionable. Tyrann Mathieu coming in questionable as well. 2 tight ends for each team coming into this one banged up. Foster Moreau is questionable. Dallin Holker is questionable for the Saints as well. For the Dallas Cowboys, you got Jake Ferguson, who's definitely not going to be playing in this game. He had the MCL last week, but that's a good look and a good sign for the Cowboys. Thought it was an ACL there. John Stevens Jr. is going to be questionable in this one as well. Marshawn Nealon questionable. A lot of players coming into this game a little bit banged up. The Cowboys, we know that they were excellent at home last year, 8-0 at home last year. The Saints were 4-5 on the road, so not too bad. And I'll tell you what, man, I think a lot of people are looking at this Saints team, like, especially me, thinking that they could be a team that would be at the bottom of the league, definitely maybe at the bottom of the conference, obviously, but they were a sneaky finish last year, man, at 9-8. And a lot of people forgot that they just barely didn't make the playoffs because the Bucs ended up winning the NFC South. But they both had the same exact records. The Bucs just had the tiebreaker on them. Now, the Cowboys play best when they have an early lead. We know that. Coming from behind is really not Dak Prescott's forte. And last week, it was 20-3 at the half, 30-10 in the third quarter. That defense was just incredible.
Yeah.
DeMarvion Overshown had a game coming back off that ACL. Eric Kendricks had a game. DeMarcus Lawrence, 5 tackles, 4 quarterback hits, 2 sacks. That looks like a stat line for the whole entire New York Giants defensive front. And Micah Parsons as well with the 5 quarterback hits, 1 tackle, or 1 TFL and 1 sack as well. So definitely looking for that defense to come into this game and kind of continue the momentum that they had from last week if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. And they definitely stopped the run in a major way. Jerome Ford didn't do too much last week, 44 yards. But this week, they have a very different task at hand going up against Alvin Kamara here, who did have a game last week, 15 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. He was averaging 5.5 yards per carry, 5 receptions, 27 yards. The Saints had 180 yards rushing versus the Carolina Panthers. So this is definitely going to be a different task here. Derek Carr did his part last week, too, 19 of 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very clean game from Derek Carr. And I went back and I looked at Derek Carr's statistics from last year. And, like, you know, there's been a lot of debate in the New York Giants community about, like, if there's a free agent out there to go out there and get a quarterback going into next year, which Dak Prescott was one of those names before he signed a contract. People are down on Derek Carr as if he's playing worse ball than Daniel Jones is. But the numbers from last year looked pretty damn good. And in this opening day game that he had, he really balled out. His QBR was 84.9. Saints put up 379 total yards of offense. And this is a Panthers defense that I think a lot of people aren't really familiar with as well, that they were 4th last year in yards allowed. So that defense wasn't that bad. It's really the Saints or the Panthers offense that has really struggled. And Dak Prescott, me and you talked about this really quickly off air with that one little minute I had when I sat down here and we got to, you know, chopping it up. But Dak Prescott didn't have to do too much. I think the completion percentage is a little bit alarming for a guy, you know, of his status, 19 of 32, 179 yards. QBR last week was 30.9. I've learned to take QBR with a grain of salt. And, you know, I'm coming to class today and I'm saying that the dog ate my homework because I did have some homework on QBR, quarterback rating, and there was a few other things on that list I wrote down. It's been a busy week, so dog ate the homework, didn't really get a chance to get to that. But just over 100 yards rushing as a team for the Dallas Cowboys. They had 102 rushing yards last week. Zeke led them with 40 yards. So they did try to rely on that run. Really didn't work out too good for them. I heard Stephen A. Smith say that CeeDee Lamb had he went out there and put on a show. Had 5 receptions for 61 yards. Half of them came on 1 reception. I had to tweet it out, and I added him. I normally don't tag somebody in the tweet, you know.
But sometimes they need to be tagged.
Yeah, sometimes you got to call somebody out, man. But a very lackluster performance, I would say, from the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver corps, but they did manage to get the victory, which is most important. I think this matchup is going to be a little bit different. That Saints defense, definitely solid last week. I know we're thinking, hey, it's the Panthers. A side note here. The Panthers are so bad right now, and I heard this today, they're selling a pair of tickets. Take a guess what they're selling a pair of tickets for.
Well, so I kind of have an idea because I was looking at tickets for Sunday, and you know they show when you're looking at all the scoreboard on ESPN, it shows you the ticket prices for every game.
Yeah, and
I saw it was like $16. So I'm gonna say a pair of tickets for $25.
Bro, they're selling a pair of tickets for $1.80 right now.
No way, $1.80 each or for 2?
For both of them. It's pretty bad in Carolina right now.
Oh
but the Saints defense, bro, they only allowed 58 rushing yards last week. We know that the Dallas Cowboys are coming into this game with one of the most lackluster running back rooms in the league. I mean, I think you can maybe Zeke Elliott could get it back to his old ways here, but that defense has been definitely really good for a while over there in New Orleans. Head coach Dennis Allen, you know, very defensive minded. He's been there for a long time, too. He was the defensive coordinator from 2015 all the way to 2021 before he was hired as the head coach. I think that, you know, this game could get a little bit more ugly than the Dallas Cowboys are expecting. But what do you see in this matchup?
Well, for me, it's a little bit difficult because I think both of these teams played against inferior opponents week 1. So it's a little bit hard for me to take all of the numbers, but you know I'm going to nitpick some of the numbers from week 1 and use them for my narrative, or else that wouldn't be the beard, you know? So that's where we're at with that. But I mean, Alvin Kamara and Rashid Shaheed, okay? Those are 2 guys on the Saints that you're going to want to keep your eyes out on, because I think if Alvin Kamara can run the ball efficiently early on, it's going to open up an opportunity for one of those Rashid Shaheed bombs. And the Cowboys have to be careful of that.
Yeah.
Have to be careful of that because, you know, that's a way where, you know, if they can stay around the game and let's say it's 3-3 by the end of the first quarter, but Kamara's kind of getting some good carries, they could open up that second quarter, you know, score with a bomb to Shaheed, and then now the Cowboys are playing from behind sort of situation, which we already talked about. It's not necessarily their forte. Yeah. So those are 2 guys I think the Cowboys had to look out for. Obviously, I'm going to be looking at Dak and Carr, both of them. You know, Carr, I think people forget. He was an MVP candidate for a while. That injury, you know, kind of put him back a little bit. things didn't go well for the Raiders, and he moved on to the Saints. Saints didn't really have much firepower to a certain extent. I mean, they have Olave, they have Kamara, but Michael Thomas kind of just fizzled out right when Carr got there, with the injuries and everything around him. So it's like, can Carr kind of capture that sort of magic in the bottle again? And he's going to need to against that Dallas Cowboys defense, because that Dallas Cowboys defense it's their identity. We talk a lot about identities here with teams, especially our own teams. And the Cowboys, in my opinion, their defense is their identity. CeeDee Lamb is one of the best wide receivers in the entire National Football League. There's no debating
Top
that.
three.
And Dak is a good quarterback. He's not necessarily great, but he's on that tier 3, tier 2 sort of thing. He's getting paid like he's great. That's for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dallas's offense can do. You talked about the running back room. My main concern with Dallas is their offense. Last week, listen, the Browns got a good defense, right? They got a good defense. Now, that score was a little bit skewed by the field goals, all the field goals that the Dallas Cowboys made. I'm going to go over some quick numbers really fast on Dallas's offense. Last week, in the NFL, yards, they were 24th. Yards per play, they were 25th. First downs, they were 22nd. Third down conversions, 21st. Their average time per drive, they were 31st in the NFL in week 1. They only held the ball for an average of 2 minutes and 5 seconds on every drive that they had in week 1.
And Watson had, 2 turnovers, so you're looking at some decent field position on some of those.
And yards per drive. They were 27th. They were only averaging 18.9 yards per drive in week 1. So some of those numbers kind of worry me a little bit as far as Dallas's offense. And I'm kind of curious to see how they perform against the New Orleans Saints. I don't necessarily think it's a concern to where they might lose this game, but if they, mess around and find out, that could happen. So
I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you on that. I wouldn't be too concerned about the Dallas Cowboys offense. Just, it's one of those kind of games. We saw it with Philly last year where offense, you're not tested. You high-fiving on the sidelines a lot during this game. It's 30-10 in the beginning of the third quarter. And your defensive front had Deshaun Watson looking like he was running from the police. So definitely a thing there. But, I know you said this too. Like, you don't want to hang your hat on week 1 statistics too much, but you got to identify them at least. I'm glad you brought up Rashid Shaheed with the big plays. He had a 59-yarder last week in that game against the Panthers. And that was the first thing I put as far as the Cowboys. If they want to try to get a victory in this game, you got to limit the big plays from the Saints. And Derek Carr put a beautiful, beautiful pass on him in that game. And I also think you got to get a lot of pressure on Derek Carr. You got to treat him exactly how you did with Deshaun Watson last week. Cowboys had 6 sacks on Deshaun Watson last week. Continue that same momentum. I think that a lot of people were worried about the injury with Deron Bland, but they seem to be okay in the secondary for now, at least. Establish the run and control the clock. It's very important. And they don't necessarily have the firepower at the running back position to frighten a defense like that, but you just want to get positive yards. Put Dak in situations where his down and distance is not predictable and it's not, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 15. Limit the penalties. And then also no turnovers from Dak. If you throw interceptions in your own territory, I think you're going to give the New Orleans Saints a very good opportunity to win this game. And last but not least for me, man, more Kevontae Turpin. That kid is just a walking playmaker.
Find a way to get him the ball.
Find a way to get him the ball. I would start to bring him in on offense a little bit more. Try those bubble screens and those things y'all were trying last year that weren't really working that well. But for me, I'm taking the Cowboys in this one. I think it'll be a pretty high-scoring game, somewhere in the middle 20s. I'm going to take the Cowboys 27-22.
All right. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys as well. I think their defense shows up at home, especially. If this game was in New Orleans, I might have given them a little bit, closer of a game. But I'm going to take Dallas 24, New Orleans Saints 13.
A little bit better margin for you. I like that. You're giving those flowers out early this season. I like it.
Listen, I'm trying to be real. You know what I'm saying? I'm setting the bar, letting the Cowboys do the Cowboys. I'm not going to go too crazy on them. That's why I just was putting those numbers out there just to see, let's see how they do week 2.
Yeah, you kind of you brought the flowers, but you didn't pay for the expensive roses.
No. I got the $6.99 daisies. You know what I'm saying?
That bargain
Safeway
from Walmart. All right, man. Well, this is why everybody pretty much came here. Let's get off into our rivalry, at least over here on Authentic and the Beard. It hasn't been that much of a rivalry as late, but 2 0-1 teams, man. The New York Giants are traveling down here to Northwest Stadium to take on the Commanders. Just don't even sound right. I don't even like it, but let's get to it. All right. So, New York Giants started off their season in a very pathetic fashion against those Vikings. I did just watch the quarterback school on Sam Darnold on my way back from D.C. Definitely had a good game, and seeing it from the All-22 with, breaking down from an NFL professional was really good to see that. Sam Darnold had a really good game. Not really good to see my New York Giants take the L in this one. Commanders are favored in this one by 1.5. The over-under is 44. Last week, Commanders lost to the Bucs 37-20. Giants lost to the Vikings 28-6. No Emmanuel Forbes in this one. Came out that he's going to be having thumb surgery. Yep. That might not be a bad thing. I mean, he's been struggling left and right out there on that field. Malik Neighbors was limited in practice today with a knee injury, so that's definitely something to keep your eye on. That is our playmaker in the wide receiver department. Not named Darius Slayton. That's really all we got, to be honest. In the last meeting between these two teams, the Giants won 31-19. That was last year in 2023. Tommy DeVito got the start in that game. He was 18 of 26 for 246 yards. 3 touchdowns. He had three touchdowns, man. And I don't think I have to say it, but I'll say it anyway. Daniel Jones has not had 3 touchdowns since December 2019. The weird part about that last game, the Commanders really dominated a lot of the statistics. They had more rushing yards. They had more passing yards. They had more first downs. They were better on third down. They had less punts. They won the time of possession. Big number here was they turned the ball over 6 times.
6 times. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Kind of crazy. Now, this is a very different Commanders team. New owner, new front office, new coaching staff, new quarterback, new almost everything here. And Dan Quinn takes over, former Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. He's 6-0 versus the Giants while he was the defensive coordinator over there with the Cowboys. So he knows Daniel Jones. And, in New York Giants land, shout out to the Giants Nation. Y'all in the building. Y'all know what it is. But there's a couple of narratives that I won't even call them narratives. They're myths. They're myths, right? You know how you think something is something and it's not really quite that way, right? Daniel Jones being a good deep ball passer is one of them. And once you go through the numbers, it's like you're going off one season where he threw it downfield like 14 times. You can't do that. But when you look at Daniel Jones against the Washington Commanders, the words that you hear are Daniel Jones is their dad. Daniel Jones owns the Commanders.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we got to beat the Commanders. It's a sweep this year. I didn't even think we were going to sweep y'all last year, but y'all had that little fire sale before the trade deadline. Now, Daniel Jones, to me, as you know, he is a 1 touchdown a game type of quarterback.
If that these days.
That's a very good point. So here's the huge game in 2019. Second time we played y'all. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, straight lit it up. That game went to overtime, by the way, which is kind of crazy. Outside of that, every other game is a 1 touchdown game from Daniel Jones. His first game is 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. His third game was 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had 3 in a row where he was just 1 touchdown, no interceptions. And his last performance against y'all, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 160 yards. It's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen. We're the Mythbusters now. that is astonishing, actually, because
crazy.
I have fallen under that belief too. That like Daniel just, I guess it's because it's the non-stat for quarterbacks wins that make it look so good. Because what is he?
5-1-1.
5-1-1 against us, and he's like 1-7-1 against the Eagles or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of his last win. Yeah, did he play in that game last year? No, he didn't play in that one. He didn't play. I don't even know if he has a win against the Eagles, but you might be right on that. But both of these quarterbacks, I won't say in an equal fashion, but they did leave a lot to be desired in the passing game here in their opening games in Week 1. Jaden Daniels, 4th highest off-target rate of Week 1. 16.7% of his passes were off target. His average depth of target was 5.2 yards. There was the one play with Terry McLaurin lined up in the slot where he ran that big post, and Jaden Daniels just completely missed him. Now, it wasn't quite Daniel Jones type of pitiful, right? But Daniel Jones' ADOT was 5.0. From the clean pocket, it was 4.7. Neither of these quarterbacks threw for over 200 yards. And I heard a statistic from Bob Papa that the last quarterback to rush for 80 yards. It might have been 60 yards, but to have 2 rushing touchdowns in their first rookie game, the last guy was Daniel Jones against the Bucs.
Tampa Bay.
And I thought that was really interesting that these two guys share, a little bit of the same kind of history. But Jaden Daniels had 184 yards, no touchdowns through the air. He did have 2 on the ground. Daniel Jones had 186 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And both of these teams' wide receiver units were in the top 10 in separation coming out of week 1, where Jaden Daniels was number 2. The average yards of separation in week 1 for him were 4.7, and for Daniel Jones, it was 4.4. So I do think that both of these quarterbacks, one is a rookie, one is going into year 6. It's really difficult that they're kind of playing the same way, but we've come to expect this over here at Authentic in the Beard. And I think right now going into this game, Daniel Jones he's cooking, man. He's on the skillet right now. And that pressure is definitely in his face. Saquon Barkley came out in his interview with the Eagles and said he had to reach out to him after his poor performance. He's on what is it when you he's on suicide watch type vibes right now. Daniel Jones is. It's bad right now in New York. All the fans booing. Terrible game. He was running into sacks. Only one of the 6 sacks or 5 sacks was credited to the offensive line. The other 4 were credited to him. Very inaccurate all day long. Pick 6, pick in the red zone, 1 throw over 20 yards. I think Jaden Daniels had 1 throw over 10 yards. They do share that in common as well. 25% of the pressures turned into sacks because of Daniel Jones. This is my little bit of a hot take before I throw this over to you. A lot of people were talking about this today in the Twitter spaces. Big shout out to Pat Leonard, who popped up in the spaces today and rocked out with everybody for about an hour. It was amazing. If the Giants are down by 3 scores at the half, I'm talking like how it was for Cleveland Browns against the Dallas Cowboys last week, 20-3. I'm benching Daniel Jones. Straight up and down. I think it's a perfect opportunity, one, for Daniel Jones to go out there against a injured and already a lackluster secondary in the Washington Commanders. This is the type of game that you should have a bounce-back game. I watched the NFL.com and the NFL guys breakdown. He even said something about a Big Sean lyric, in the middle of it about something about bouncing back. I can't remember the Big Sean song. I'm not a huge Big Sean fan. But this is a perfect opportunity for him to get back in some of the graces, I guess, of some of the Giants fans who were looking at this year as possibly being one of Daniel Jones' biggest years. Now, if he's stinking it up in the first half, I think it's a great opportunity to go ahead and put Drew Lock in the game, see what you can get, right? It reminds me of what y'all were doing last year with Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. 2 games in a row, Jacoby Brissett came in and threw for more than 2 touchdowns and put up some numbers. And I think they eventually did end up pivoting to Jacoby Brissett, but they probably should have did that a lot earlier. But this will give you that opportunity to kind of at least gauge what Drew Lock can do, 1, with the starters, and 2, against a starting defense outside of a preseason game against the Detroit Lions, which I don't even think they had starters in that game. And then if Lock fails, does it hurt to just go to the press conference if you're Brian Dable and be like, we're going back with Daniel Jones? Yeah. Simple as that. And I think that the Giants aren't really built to come back anyway. So if you get down 3 scores, you get to halftime, Daniel, hold that clipboard, bro. Drew Lock's going to go in here and play, a couple of snaps. We're going to see what we got here. That's how I see it. Before I get to the defense, I want to kick it over to you, see what you got going on, as far as this matchup. But I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'd like to see Daniel Jones go out here and have a big game and all that. But to me, it's not going to matter. I'm ready for Drew Lock.
Ooh. I think a lot of people are. I'm ready for Drew Lock, and I'm not even a Giants fan. But, look. This is the worst offense. We're not going to count Carolina Panthers because they just don't count for anything right now, right? This is the worst offense in the National Football League going up against the worst defense in the National Football League right now. That's the way I'm viewing this game. So it's the pressure is there for both of these teams. If you're Daniel Jones and you don't throw a touchdown pass in this game, that's going to be one entire calendar year, 365 days without throwing a touchdown pass. And you couldn't do it against the worst secondary in the National Football League, right? Now, if you're the Washington Commanders and Daniel Jones goes out there and throws 2 or 3 touchdowns, you're going to be fried.
Absolutely.
Locally for sure. Probably nationally too. You just let it. If Daniel Jones goes out there and throws 2 touchdowns on us, you're never going to hear the end of it. Because that's you let the worst quarterback in the National Football League come out there and throw 2 touchdowns on you in your home field. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on this defense and a lot of pressure on the Giants offense, specifically Daniel Jones. So for me, the real matchup is the turn side of that. It's Washington's offense versus New York Giants defense. That to me is where the game is going to be won. Okay? If Washington's offense can find a way to, capitalize on these drives, not miss field goals, not miss wide open Terry McLaurin's, going down the sideline, can the Giants defense get to Jaden Daniels? Can they contain him if they can't get to him? Thibodeau usually has a really good game against us.
Yep.
So that's another guy. On my notes, I have, you gotta make sure you keep Daniel Jones Daniel and not Dan. That's one of the things right there that we talked about, you and I. And if we allow him to become Dan and not stay Daniel, then it could get embarrassing for us. So that's where one of my big matchups are. Now, the other thing that's really important to me is going to be the third down offense and third down defense for Washington, because we were miserable on both of those. Washington's third down offense was 7th worst in the National Football League week 1, 25%. The Giants' third down defense was actually fairly good. They were the 13th best third down defense in week 1 at 30%.
Vikings struggled.
Washington's third down defense, absolutely hideous. The worst in the National Football League at 69.2%. New York Giants, once again, not too bad. 15th, 38.9% on offense on third downs. So Washington's really going to have to turn that around, because that's going to be very critical for the Washington offense. So, that's the big picture right there for me. And now I think I got enough to go ahead and give you guys the roadmap to victory.
All right. I just got out the damn car. I was in the car in traffic for like an hour and a half. But, yeah, let's get right to it, man. Let's get to this roadmap one time.
Yeah, you're getting on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Go down the lane. No. Okay, get the procedure. Just get the lane.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the roadmap to victory, brought to you by the unofficial official sponsor, Waze GPS device. Okay, we talked about third downs. Plain and simple. The Washington Commanders must win the third down battle. Not just on offense, not just on defense. If you want to win this game, you have to win the third down battle on both sides of the football. That's in the trenches. I need you guys to get in the trenches. Mike Allstott sound effects. They weren't there week 1. I need them here week 2. Okay? We talked about Daniel Jones becoming Dan and not Daniel. 0 touchdown passes for Daniel Jones in this game.
That 365. You really want that 365.
I do. Zero touchdown passes for Daniel Jones against this Washington Commanders horrendous secondary. Next up, I talked about Thibodeau. 0 sacks. You cannot allow Kayvon Thibodeau to get any sacks. I'm going to foresee maybe a sack or two, because of just Jaden Daniels moving around, rookie quarterback. But Kayvon Thibodeau, you got to stop him. He eats us alive every time he faces us. Clean up the defense, okay? That means finish a damn tackle. Get the sacks. You're in the backfield. I went over the pressure rate, the hurry numbers of the quarterback hits, but you could not take down Baker Mayfield. Do not let Daniel Jones become, what do they call him? The Vanilla Vic. Do not let him do that to you.
They call him. It's funny you say that, because I ain't heard that shit in a minute.
It's been a long time, right? But when you come against the Commanders, it might happen. So you cannot let Daniel Jones get in the phone booth, basically. Okay? Do not let him get in the phone booth, because he's going to come out, he's going to throw a touchdown, he might run for 60 yards and then fall on his face at the 5-yard line at Northwest Field, okay? So you cannot, you got to clean it up. The defense will get 4 sacks in this game. The New York Giants in week 1 allowed the most sacks in the National Football League. I say that with quotation marks because
wasn't the Browns? I thought the Browns had one more than us. Maybe I'm wrong.
They allowed the most, but I say allowed because, as Authentic mentioned, Daniel Jones was responsible for 99% of those sacks. Yeah. And last but certainly not least, we're going to need to force turnovers. If Daniel Jones isn't throwing touchdowns, he's throwing interceptions. So we're going to need 2 turnovers from the Washington defense. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how the Commanders can win this football game.
I like it, bro. It's a good roadmap, man. The third down stuff, definitely digging it. Daniel Jones, I know you want to see that 365. You were the first person I heard say that, and it shocked the hell out of me. On our side of the ball, I think it's super important, and we didn't do this last week against Sam Darnold. You got to contain Jaden Daniels. You know, you only sacked Sam Darnold one time in that game. And I'll also, man, keep this kid contained as a runner as well. 16 rushes, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. To me, the thing from Jaden Daniels, and I talked about this on Bleacher Report, that is really translating is his speed with his legs and also his speed with just determining, okay, I'm going to run it or I'm going to let go of the ball. I think Cliff Kingsbury's doing a really good job, at least one game through, with, you know, taking that transition and making all those things translate for him. I'm still concerned about stopping the run here. Like, we saw it with Aaron Jones with the Minnesota Vikings. And what they did was they just ran it right at Brian Burns and right at Kayvon Thibodeau. And I think that if the Washington Commanders study their tape, they're probably going to do the exact same thing. And I honestly think that maybe not from an offensive line standpoint, but from a running back standpoint, y'all present a tougher matchup with Brian Robinson and with Austin Eckler out there as well, running tough. We talked about that on the last recap show. The Giants only allowed 111 rushing yards last week. I'm expecting that number to increase a little bit here with the 2 running backs that you have. And it's Bobby Johnson over there calling that offensive line.
Oh, man.
Right? So this is a Bobby Johnson revenge game.
I totally forgot about that because New York Giants fans were frying me on Twitter because I was talking about, you know, our offensive line is not as bad as last year. And they were like, you have the worst offensive line coach in the world.
That's how Giants fans approach things. We had the worst tight end when we had Evan Ingram. We have the worst left tackle in the history of the NFL with Nate Solder. Kenny Galladay had the worst contract anybody has ever signed. It's always that with the Giants, right? Because they want to. We always want to. We trying to. Hey, it's you. No, it's you, bro. It's you.
Spider-Manning. You're Spider-Manning. The Giants are Spider-Manning.
Like everybody looking off like where to point blame at. But this the crazy part about it is, how many times have we talked about this? A decisive quarterback and what that can do for your offensive line. We saw Bobby Johnson and this Washington Commanders offensive line go out there last week. Pretty tough test against the Buccaneers. How many times was Jaden Daniels sacked last week? Twice, I believe?
2 times.
Daniel Jones was sacked 2 times, once all of last year. So to start your career off like that with worse personnel, you guys don't have a bookend left tackle like we have with Andrew Thomas out there, right? And I would say that our offensive line was pretty poor last year. But this offensive line that people are projecting on paper, they think y'all are going to have just as bad of an offensive line, and y'all have the worst offensive line coach in the league. I've been waiting for this game, and I've been waiting for this season from the Commanders to really be able to assess Bobby Johnson. I've been talking about it like all off season. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how he looks with that offensive line with the Commanders and a different quarterback. I think that a quarterback like Daniel Jones just does not help your offensive line. Now, the pass rush for the New York Giants was non-existent last week, right? Dexter Lawrence, a guy. 50%, he was winning on his pass rush win rate. He was the highest D tackle as far as win rates go in week 1. The next guy was 42% beneath him. So
that's our strong suit on the line is our interior line.
Yeah, and I didn't even see none of your guys on the top. Oh, you talking about offensive line?
Yeah, offensively.
Right, most definitely. And as far as defensive line, you guys do have strength on the interior of the defensive line as well, too. And I didn't see none of your guys on that list, which was the top 10 guys, which is interesting. The Ravens' Travis Jones was next in line at 30%. Dexter Lawrence up there at 72%. Just way above and beyond all the rest of the players that are playing D-tackle in the league. Kayvon and Brian Burns both with 5% pass rush win rates. That's got to get fixed. And this week we're going up against a core of wide receivers that to me is lacking a lot of talent. Like, you do have Terry McLaurin over there who could have had 2 big plays last week, but you had 2 running backs lead your room as far as receiving go. And I know that Cliff Kingsbury, as the offensive coordinator that he is, he's trying to change that narrative, and he wants to stretch the field a little bit. Terry McLaurin has 17 yards right now after week 1, and that's just not enough if you're a Commanders fan. You got to find a way to get him in rhythm if you want to try to have your passing attack be a reason why you win this game. But Sam Darnold, it was easy for him last week. The one interception was, I went back and I looked at the All-22 today as I was watching J.T. O'Sullivan break it down. The one interception where Dexter Lawrence tipped the ball at the line, if Dexter doesn't tip that ball at the line, he's got a deep shot for a touchdown. I mean, wide open down the field. So we're going up against a quarterback that's more mobile, faster, does more with his legs, can make you pay if you want to do all that loopy outside, lean the motorcycle down like you turning type of pass rush. I think the Giants are going to be in trouble in 2 spaces, and it's kind of interesting. It's a space where most of our fans thought that the defensive line was going to be the backbone of this team. But I think that they present issues. You saw it last week with Aaron Jones taking advantage of those zone runs right at Brian Burns. Those guys go outside. Well, we're going to just run right inside, right up off of you. I watched the program last night too, man. Let me tell you one thing I didn't notice about the program that really grossed me out. When Mac gets hurt, when he gets flipped over against Iowa, he's going up against the Iowa, what are they, the Hawkeyes?
Hawkeyes.
Dude's foot is backwards, bro. I never noticed that when I was a kid. You know, I noticed a little slice on his knee, but the dude's foot is backwards, bro. It's kind of crazy. But
shout out Lou Mateo, though, in the YouTube comment section. He reminded me that he didn't play linebacker. He was a DN.
Played DN. And that's why I really wanted to watch it. I wanted to double check because, like,
but
I
he was
searched
right,
it on
right?
YouTube, and the bit rate was so, like, just jacked up. I couldn't even read when he was like, starting defense. Then he said, a seat at the table. I was like, yo, this dude's a nut. But that movie, man, definitely not a happy ending. And I think that's what's going to happen here with the New York Giants. I think it's going to be really tough to get a victory against the Commanders here, a team that is not necessarily on the up and up, but did commit to the rebuild. And I think they did it the proper way. I'm definitely not confident in this one. I think we got to find a way to run the ball better. Don't turn the ball over. I'm not confident in really getting pressure on Jaden Daniels. I think that if the Giants do get some pressure early, I expect the Commanders to be able to adjust. Hopefully we can take advantage of that weaker offensive line. And with that injury coming into this week, I'm just praying that Malik Neighbors can be close to 100% because we're going to need him to win this game. Without no Malik Neighbors, you saw Wan'Dale Robinson last week got 12 targets. He only had like 6 receptions, I think, or 7 receptions off the 12 targets. And Daniel Jones was just not his normal self.
And Slayton's in concussion protocol right now, right? Yeah.
Yep. So that presents some problems for the Giants. So crossing my fingers that we can be healthy for this game. You got to score for this one?
Oh, you know I got to score. Dude, I got to score.
I'm winging it.
Washington Commanders 27.
Eesh, it's a lot of points.
New York Football Giants
6.
I gave y'all 12.
You gave us 12?
Yeah.
No, wait. how do you foresee us getting to that 12?
I was debating if it was going to be 4 field goals or if it was going to be 2 field goals and a Singletary touchdown with a interception on a 2-point conversion.
That's crazy. I like it, man. Damn. I said that I was going to pick the Giants 2 weeks in a row. This was the game that I really thought we could win. I thought the Minnesota Vikings game was a little bit farther out of reach than this one, but I felt good about it being opening day. You know, opening day, you kind of just, you just got those your hopes are high. And you're like, maybe my team will come out here and kind of surprise me. The way they played last week and the way that offense looked, I mean, granted, Brian Dable didn't bring the right game plan to the table. A lot of 12 personnel, sometimes 13 personnel in that game. And he thought that Brian Flores was going to blitz. I think that if the Washington Commanders are smart, they're going to keep everything in front of them this game. It's gonna be the running game for the Giants if we're going to win it, man. You're going to need Devin Singletary to be getting some big chunks, 6 yards. And when I say big chunks, I mean for him. You know, he's not going to give you them 30, 40-yard runs. I'm talking like a good 8, maybe 9 here and there. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I'm trying to convince myself I don't see it. I'm going to go Commanders. I think it's going to be like fairly low scoring. Do the Giants get the touchdown? I mean, we've been talking about these stats for a year now. The Giants got to get in the end zone once, right? I'm gonna give them the 12 you gave them. I'm gonna give them the 12. I'm gonna give them 13. I'm gonna give them 13. I'm gonna give them a touchdown and 2 field goals. I don't think it's gonna be a passing touchdown though. I think the Commanders are gonna win this one 21-13.
All right. No passing touchdowns for Daniel Jones, huh?
Look, man, I don't think so. Go out there and prove me wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll feel better about it if he proves me wrong rather than being like, yeah, he's going to go up there and put up 2 touchdowns. It's the Washington Commanders, and then he'd go out there and shit the bed. So, surprise me. We'll see how it goes.
Before we move on from your New York Football Giants, big shout out to Fiendish Fantasy Productions for the $2 super chat. Says, I'm going to say it's fire Shane and move Brown to GM.
Not mad at it. I would wait a little bit longer. Let's wait till at least, the trade deadline type of vibes. Let's see where we at with it, by time when teams are starting to really find out if they're going to make a playoff push.
You guys, I just listen. It kind of feels good. Like I've had to deal with the worst franchise in football for
I've
the
been
entire
here with
time
you.
we've done this. So I mean,
I've been right there with you. You guys won the division that one year. We
the
covered a
COVID
playoff
year.
game. Yeah, I mean it was 7-9, but
Oh, Jesus.
you know what I'm saying. So you
You
got
guys
one
went
year,
to.
I
You
got
guys
one
won
year.
a playoff game.
Yeah. I feel
Okay.
you.
Oh, I forgot to tell you this one really fast. This is gonna blow your mind, bro. Okay. First of all, two more nuggets. Washington is 5-2 against the New York Giants in Week 2 matchups. Okay, so that's in our favor.
I don't like that, but go ahead.
The Washington Redskins / football team / Commanders since the year 1999 are 40 games under 500 against the NFC East.
That's crazy.
I had to throw that one. I had to drop that one for you, so hopefully that makes
Since
you feel a little bit better.
1999.
40 games under 500.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a good way to end that segment. All right, well, let's get right into it, man. Talk about these Philadelphia Eagles and these Atlanta Falcons that everybody was high on and definitely didn't show up in Week 1. All right, so this one is Monday night, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons are going to be taking on each other on Monday night. Kickoff is at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. Falcons coming in at 0-1, Eagles at 1-0. Eagles are favored by 6.5 in this one. The over-under is 47. Last week, man, Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers took care of them Atlanta Falcons, 18-10. Nice little clean
Without
game
scoring a
for my guy.
touchdown.
But he was clean. He was like 18-21, only like just under 200 yards, using his legs. Good stuff, man. Getting my man George Pickens involved. I loved it, man. The Eagles beat the Packers in Brazil 34-29. Last meeting, the Eagles destroyed the Falcons 32-6. That was in 2021, and Jalen Hurts threw for over 264 yards, 3 touchdowns in that one. The Eagles came out, looked a little bit rusty, interception, fumble. I love how they showed resilience, bounced back, won that game in a major way, scored a touchdown on 3 straight drives. My question in this game is, can Saquon Barkley put this team on his back when the passing game is not working? Because we saw A.J. Brown doing what he does in this game. We saw Devonta Smith doing what he does. And Saquon Barkley in return had a really big game, 109 yards on the ground, 3 total touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry. And I like to do this because, Giants fans like to do this too. Saquon is on pace for 1,800 yards on the ground this year.
2,000 coming up.
You got to do it early on, right? But, my whole thing is like if Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown do play well, the Falcons have no chance at winning this game. 5 receptions, 119 yards last week for A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith, you talked about it. He was that security blanket for Jalen Hurts when things weren't quite clicking the way that they wanted to. This is an interesting nugget right here, too. Devonta Smith has the Eagles franchise record for catches and receiving yards in the first 3 seasons as an Eagles player with 240 receptions and 3,178 yards. So he's a dog. I heard some people in the space one time talking about he's not a wide receiver 1, and I was like, it's only because A.J. Brown is there. He's the wide receiver
1A, 1B.
Yeah, man, and that's what you need in this modern day in the NFL, I feel like, is 2 really top-end wide receivers. And now that they brought over Jahan Dotson over there, you got 3 first-round wide receivers starting on that team, and that seems to be a recipe for success, and the Eagles definitely have been showing that. Now, Cousins and that Falcons offense, they struggled. It looks like Kirk Cousins is maybe not 100% healthy.
What do you think, to your eyes? Just
He's
real
not
quick. He's not healthy, right?
Not healthy. And I'll tell you a statistic that kind of backs it up. Kirk Cousins is known as one of the last traditional quarterbacks that still takes a good chunk of his snaps from under center. 40% of his snaps were under center in 2022, I believe it was. He had 1 snap under center in this game, bro. Everything else was in the shotgun. So that tells me they're worried about the drop back. He's not getting back from underneath center fast enough, and they're trying to buy him some time. Last week versus the Steelers, 16-26, just 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That doesn't sound like a Kirk Cousins game at all. And my worries over there were about the wide receiver core. Drake London had 2 receptions. Darnell Mooney had 1 reception. Each of them had 15 yards. The Falcons were 2-9 on 3rd down. They lost the time of possession battle by nearly 10 minutes. You can't win a game like that. And then they didn't really run the ball that effective. But I got to commend them for committing to it because Bijan Robinson had 18 carries, right? But 3.8 yards per carry, I think you got to get a little bit more creative with what you're doing with the running game. I mean, Bijan Robinson's a guy you can utilize in the pass attack. You can do crafty things with him in the run. And it just seems like the Falcons aren't doing that. But I do think that the expectations for them were a little bit too high this year.
Yeah.
People saying they were just a quarterback away. People saying that this is a team that's automatically going to win that division. And you see the way the Bucs came out in week one. They really look like the front runners.
Saints look good week one, too.
And the Saints. So maybe you get a repeat type of situation of last year again where those two teams are going to be contending for the division. But this matchup, I think, definitely does not favor the Atlanta Falcons. If the Philadelphia Eagles can play to their capabilities, which is what we waited for all last season and really never got to see them play a perfect football game all year long, I don't see a chance for the Falcons to win this game. But what are you seeing in the matchup?
A lot of what you said is, I mean, we're on the same page. We're in different, realm of wavelength connection over these last couple of episodes.
You're Rashid Shaheed on the left. I was like, damn,
because for me, it's all about Bijan Robinson. And can the Philadelphia Eagles find a way to replicate the first half rush defense that they had against Green Bay? Because by the end of the game last week, the Philadelphia Eagles gave up 163 yards on the ground. So if you want a way to
Jacobs got it going in that second half.
If you want to find a way to save, Kirk Cousins, you got to find a way to produce yards on the ground. Because otherwise it's going to be a long day for the Atlanta Falcons. And when I talked about the Atlanta Falcons and the improvements that they made, I thought they made a lot of really sneaky end of preseason training camp free agency moves. When they picked up Simmons and they picked up Matt Judon. And so I'm expecting that defense to be better. And obviously they look good, but let's be honest, it was up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense hasn't looked good since Ben Roethlisberger was a quarterback. Let's just be honest, okay? So I think that there's going to be, this might be a rude awakening for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Kirk Cousins came out today because the rumors were swirling. Like, people saw what you saw, but one snap taken under the center, and then just the velocity. There was no push on the leg, anything like that, as far as the throws were coming from Kirk Cousins. So he got asked about it. He said, "Oh no, I'm good, 100." Like, you know how you hurt yourself and your girl asks you like, "You all right? You all right?" And you in your mind you like, "I think I just tore my ACL," but I don't want her to know I tore my ACL getting popcorn out the microwave. So I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm good."
Bro, I walked in the house with a bloody nose and a split lip, and I was like, "I'm good. I'm all right." My girl's like, "What the hell just happened to you?"
You walked into my mom's house with your shin rolled off of your leg.
That night I wasn't all right.
I just need a Band-Aid. I'm gonna be all right, Miss Kelly.
Shout out to LVC one time. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead and just get us a big Band-Aid. We'll be all right." I had to get like 10 stitches on my leg. I had like a golf ball size hole in my leg.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't see it yet from Atlanta. And that's kind of, I seen it from the Eagles. I see it from the Eagles. And now it looks even better with Saquon Barkley there. Let's just be honest. So I didn't see what I needed to see from Atlanta week one. I saw, for the most part, what I needed to see from Philadelphia in week two. I'm just concerned, as long as they can patch up those holes on the run game consistently, and they don't allow Bijan to kind of just get loose and rip and run all the different ways in which he can, I think it should be an easy game for the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think that if by chance Bijan Robinson has a bigger game than Saquon Barkley, that's what will keep the Atlanta Falcons in this game. The Steelers had more rushing yards than they did passing yards last week against the Falcons. And the Steelers ran all over that Falcons defense, 137 yards on the ground. And we know we're dealing with a bit of a dual-threat quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and you're dealing with Saquon Barkley, which is a better suited running back to be able to get you those kind of yards. So I do project here a big game from Saquon Barkley, another one, which is going to make the Giants nation extremely upset. I've been seeing these fans like, "He's not on our team anymore. I don't care about what Saquon Barkley does." And that's bullshit.
Absolutely, 1,000%. Especially Giants fans. Especially Giants fans. I'm going to tell you this right now.
Daniel Jones is going to come out here and put up his best season after blowing out his knee and having his neck crunched up.
Saquon Barkley has more touchdowns this year than Daniel Jones does.
Yeah, yep. Saquon Barkley has more touchdowns than the entire Giants offense.
No, I'm talking about by the end of the year, Saquon will have more touchdowns in the year 2024 than Daniel Jones will.
Likely. What do you think it's going to be? 12?
I don't think Daniel Jones sees 8 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is looking like he might not finish the year, man.
Yeah.
It's looking really bad for him. But I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. Another primetime game. Man.
They love Philly.
They love them Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to go. This is going to be a good old belt to ass whooping right here. I'm going to say 31-13. And a hot take here. We're going to see Michael Penix's first action in a regular season game.
I love it. I'm not too far off from you, bud. I got Philadelphia Eagles 27, Atlanta Falcons 16.
Not too bad. Field goal for the Falcons, 4 off from the Eagles in one time.
I'm giving a lot of love to field goals, it feels like, in these games.
Yeah, not my kicker. He didn't do too much on my fantasy.
We got a new kicker. We got a new kicker here in Washington.
Who is your new kicker now?
Sorbet.
Sorbet.
Austin Sorbet. That's what we're gonna call him.
I like it. All right, that's what's up. All right, well, let's get to this last matchup here, man. The Buffalo Bills are going to be headed to Miami to take on the Miami Dolphins one time. Told you when I first pulled up, man, like very long-winded on this game, and I shouldn't be. There's a lot going on in this game. Both teams are 1-0.
I'm short-winded, so you go.
Yeah,
let it all out.
I'll take the driver's seat for this road map here one time. This game's going to be tonight on Amazon Prime at 8:15. Dolphins are favored in this one by 1.5. Over-under is 49. Last week, Dolphins beat the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence had a really terrible game last week, man. I think he had 12 completions. It was just pathetic. And I had Evan Ingram in my fantasy lineup. He had 1 reception. The Dolphins beat the Jags 20-17. The Bills beat the Cardinals 34-28 in a great comeback win for Josh Allen. The last meeting between these teams, the Bills beat the Dolphins 21-14. That was actually this year. It was in January of this year, but last season and whatnot. The Dolphins have won 26 of their last 38 season openers. Miami just went out there. They shut out the Jacksonville Jaguars in the second half, played a really good game on both sides of the ball. The Bills set an NFL record last weekend by extending their streak to 41 games without losing a game by more than 6 points. That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
That's wild.
That's kind of crazy.
That'll get you. That'll wake you up.
That'll wake you up, yo. Shout out to the Bills, man. And Josh Allen combined for 4 touchdowns in that game. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground. The last one kind of got him a little bit injured. He is dealing with a hand injury on his non-throwing arm and whatnot. So definitely keep your eyes on that. No interceptions last week, and that was the knock on Josh Allen, has been the turnovers. And I'm really leaning towards the Buffalo Bills because they have played really well, and Josh Allen in particular. In 13 starts in his career against Miami, that's including the playoffs, Josh Allen is 11-2 with 36 touchdown passes against the Miami Dolphins. So definitely not a good look for them. And there's more to it here. He's completed 51 of his 63 passes with 6 touchdowns and damn near 700 yards in the last 2 games against the Miami Dolphins. That was last season. So I just think that this Buffalo offense, granted, they don't have all that the wide receivers that you want and all the flashy weapons that you would want. They lost Stephon Diggs, Keon Coleman coming in as a rookie and trying to. He looked pretty good. He did. And I just think Buffalo's just going to be defensively. Granted, they don't have Matt Milano, and they're dealing with some injuries over there as well. Nickel cornerback Teron Johnson, who was like the guy in that playoff run when they beat the Ravens. He really gave Lamar Jackson fits in that playoff game. I think that was 2 years ago. He's going to be injured. He's dealing with a right forearm injury in this one as well. It was on the first play of the game, I want to say, against the Arizona Cardinals. And Buffalo has top 100 yards rushing in 11 straight games. And I always tell you this, man. Like, if Josh Allen has a rushing game, it's very difficult to beat that team. And sometimes those 100 yards got to come from Josh Allen. He's a running back himself. I say he is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. One of these like bigger accounts too that I was like talking with on Twitter was saying that Josh Allen isn't a dual threat quarterback. And I was like, bro, like y'all want to just pigeonhole black quarterbacks as the dual threats. Like Josh Allen, bro, the dude runs all over the field. But Tyreek Hill ended up going crazy last week, 130 yards, 80-yard touchdown after being arrested. You talked about the end zone celebration and whatnot. For me, man, I think get some pressure on Tua, man. And that's what they did last week against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Greg Rousseau had 3 sacks last week. That's a career high for him, too.
He's a guy.
He's been a guy. When you look at the way that the Buffalo Bills drafted, offensively, they're not all that great. Dating all the way back to when Joe Shane was there.
What's the other guy's name that they have that's He played at University of Iowa, Espinoza.
Oh, yeah, he's a baller, too. Then Ed Oliver's over there as well. I mean, they draft well defensively. They know what they're doing over there. And they've let players go as well. But Von Miller had a sack last week as well. Von Miller is the active sack leader right now in the NFL, too, with 124.5. I just think, the Bills, don't put yourself in position to have to make a heroic comeback again. Just handle business early, man. I'm taking the Bills. Play consistent. Josh Allen take care of the ball again. I think it'll be kind of close because Miami does have some power on that offense to be able to keep up. But ultimately, I think that the Bills will get out to an early lead. They're going to put Tua in some obvious passing situations, and I think that's where Tua's not at his best. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills in a bit of a boat race. I was going to say the other term, but we've learned to remove that term. So I'm going to say a bit of a boat race here. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills. I don't want to say a really, high-scoring game, and then this game be 14-10 or something crazy. So I'm going to say let's go 27. Let's go 27-19 Buffalo Bills.
I told Authentic before we went live that I was one of those people who, not very vocally, but semi-vocally, I thought the Buffalo Bills were going to take a step back. I thought they might even finish third in this division. I was very impressed with the way that offense looked in week 1. I know Arizona's defense is not that great, but I also think Arizona is a better team than most people think that they're going to be this year. So I thought it was a good, opening matchup for those two teams. I think two teams that people probably aren't looking at as, contenders, or in the Cardinals' case.
I had big arguments with people on Twitter about that. Listen, if you got Josh Allen at quarterback,
you're a contender. Yeah. Yeah. 1,000%. And I mean, I thought maybe they'd be kind of battling for a wild card position, but he really has command of this offense. And I love James Cook. I think they did a great job with him. They got another guy, Ray Davis, who I'm a big fan of. Yep. And a big Keon Coleman guy, Khalil Shakir. Matt Collins made a touchdown catch last week. And this is the thing that's crazy. They didn't even utilize Dalton Kincaid in week 1. So I'm kind of going to keep my eye and see if they're going to need to utilize him in this matchup. Also, HN is active for tonight's game. So depending on how healthy he really is, he is a guy that is, HN and Tyreek Hill is just the two of those guys. You can give them the ball at any point and they can score a touchdown. And Waddle's about it. Waddle and Devonta Smith. Good God, two guys coming out of that draft that have done nothing but absolutely performed, have been solid since day
10,
1.
Right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
so
7th or 8th.
I think it's gonna be a close game, but I wanted to go Miami, but I told Authentic my gut told me to go Bills, so I'm gonna go Buffalo Bills 27, Miami Dolphins 24.
Damn, we're locked in this week, huh?
Yeah.
We both picked Philly, both picked the Bills, both picked the Commanders. And both
you had
picked the
31-27, right?
No, I had 27-19, I thought.
27-19, you're right.
Yeah, because I thought I think it's going to be a 2-score game, kind of late. They'll have to try to go for 2 to get back in the mix. Let's take care of some of these super chats real quick.
Yes, sir. Big shout out to Jaden714 with the $1.99 super chat. Says Winston, with Neighbors and Hunter next season will fix me.
That would fix me too. We talk about Jameis. Let's go.
We gotta be talking. There's only one Winston. It's Jameis.
Listen, and hopefully we can see. I don't want to go top pick on a wide receiver though. Again, that's the one thing that kind of worried me about that.
You think Travis Hunter plays wide receiver in the NFL and not corner?
I'm not too sure. I think that he has some issues with his release and his route running and stuff like that. But he's just such a dog when it comes to catching the ball. That I think he could see some success as a wide receiver, and he's really good at the cornerback position as well. But for me, it's Cam Ward, man. I really want to get Cam Ward, and I'm hoping that this season for him with Miami just doesn't fall apart. He's had 2 really solid weeks.
Yep. Big shout out, Jaden. We appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely.
Up next, Keith Wilson Jr. with a $4.99 super chat says, "Salute OG, yo Beard. Tell your boys put us out our misery like Nino did G Money. It won't solve all our problems, but it's a start." I will do my best.
Shout out Keith, man. We definitely appreciate you. There's some good bars right there. See, I use the podcast as a way to watch a movie at night. When I get back later on tonight, turn it on that New Jack City, man. Y'all know what it is.
Great flick. Big shout out to our guy, Brother L. Always holding us down. Dallas Cowboys fan, we appreciate you. I picked you guys to win again 2 weeks in a row, brother. Brother L with the $4.99 says super chat says not able to enjoy the live, but still wanted to put some change in the collection plate. Keep feeding the streets with the quality product. Hashtag Blue Magic.
My dog,
American
man.
Gangster.
Shout out Brother L, man. That's my dog right there, man. Big shot. Couldn't even stay for the stream. Sent in the super chat, man. That's love. Y'all know that these super chats definitely go a long way supporting the channel, man. So big shout out to Brother L, man. Representing them Dallas Cowboys. Good luck this weekend, my dog.
Yes, sir. And big shout out to Forever Toxic as Marquise Hardison. $4.99. I think it's Marcus, though. I'll take Daniel Jones over Dak Prescott any day of the week. Tiki Barber. To my guys, authentic in the beard. Listen, if I was on with him, I would ask him that question every day.
Every show, right?
Every show. Like, hey, how's it going? Yep, we're back here. Hey, Tiki, I got one for you. Who you taking, Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones?
100 times. It's got to be 100 times.
Every time, bro. Like, come on.
That was one of the worst takes ever. That's just a terrible take. And I heard him this past week ragging on the Jets, like just going crazy on that offense and like talking about Aaron Rodgers and all kind of stuff. When you work for the company, you know what it is. The Giants give me a job and they tell me, hey, man, don't talk too much shit about the Giants. I still am going to talk shit about the Giants. Yeah. I'm going to keep it real. But Tiki, I don't know, it's a little bit different for him over there and the guys at WFAN. But I think they do a good job of putting out good content and, talking some pretty good ball over there. But then you get these takes. But I think that these are slowly but surely, these are going to be diminishing. These type of takes they should have only lasted a week, and they lasted years and years and years. And bunch of Giants fans get influenced by that kind of stuff because Tiki is a former player. So that makes things tough for sure, man. But, terrible take. Shout out to the homie, man, one time, man, Marquez Hardison in the building, man. Beard, good show, man. Good show. Quick, got the timing that we needed to get. I got some more stuff to do here tonight, going back to D.C. to finish off a gig. I am going to watch this Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins game on the Prime Vision on my way. I ain't going to be able to look at it too crazy because I'm going to be driving because you can't be looking at them little circles.
Man, you have had practice, man. You had the TV and the Civic back in the day. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, it was in the backseat, though. It wasn't while I was driving. No, I did have a head unit, too,
you
though.
You did.
Little PS2 in there, little Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, yeah.
The good old days, man. Now I'm a more responsible driver. I'm not going out to Route 50 racing and doing none of that stuff.
All right, one more before we get out of here. We got to get to our guy, Benny. Big shout out, Benny, with a $4.99 cents super chat. Says, how many catches for Terry this weekend? I'm going to go with 6.
Ooh, I was going to go with 4. I'll go with 4.
He's going to go 5 now. Big shout out, Benny. Appreciate you, brother.
Shout out to Benny, man. Appreciate you, fam. Talked to you, yesterday, today? Texting with you, man. Texting with Monique as well, talking some ball, man. We appreciate you. Those are day ones right there. Not just authentic in the beard day ones.
Yeah, those are just day ones.
Day ones. Sandbox day ones. But yeah, definitely a good vibe, man. Looking forward to this game tonight. Football's here, and that makes the weekend and stuff kind of fly by. Tomorrow I'm gonna be taking care of some duty, so Sunday is gonna be here in no time. And we gotta talk and chop it up and figure out what we're gonna be doing. With this Northwest Field type of vibes. I'm looking at them tickets still, and I'm like,
they're pretty. They're not that bad,
It's not that bad. Minimum was like $90 sitting in the 400s, and you know me, I'm not walking up that ramp.
I got lower levels. I can find lower levels for a hundo.
Did you do it on TickPick?
No.
Exactly. So
but
you know
it
what
includes
that means,
fees.
Right? Yeah, them fees
It includes fees. I make sure to include fees.
Send me that link. I'm gonna update y'all on Twitter. Ain't no way in hell we sitting in the lower level at this game for $100. I guarantee that. But I got some plugs, man. Come on, Authentic gonna come through with some link plugs. But this might be just a tailgate vibe for me. I'm gonna keep it real because I'm not paying $100-something to sit up in 400 and then after the game waiting that line, walk down that stupid ass ramp at FedEx Field while I'm just waiting to get back to the car, then wait back in that stupid ass traffic and not get home till 3 a.m. messing around over there at Northwest Field. So we'll see how it goes, man. But any last words for the fan before we get up out of here? Enjoy it.
And if we don't see you guys Sunday morning for the parlay, which we probably won't because no matter what, we'll be tailgating even if we don't go inside. Follow us on Twitter, and I'll make sure to put up a thread, and I'll have Authentic retweet it. And if you guys have any questions, we'll do our best to answer those questions on Twitter. Idea. Because, most importantly is we want to make sure that we give you guys what you guys are looking for. So if you guys have any questions, we'll set that up on Twitter so that you guys can ask us questions on the go.
Good vibes. Y'all know how we end every podcast here, man. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that's a wrap, y'all. We'll catch y'all on the next one. It'll likely be Monday for the Giant Overreaction and Tuesday for
I'll
the
be here
NFC
for that
East
one, right?
Week
Am I
2.
still invited?
Yep. Yeah, you're still invited. It depends how bad y'all kick our ass. We'll see. But check us out on Monday. And if not, pull up on Tuesday. We'll be doing the NFC East recap. Y'all be good. Enjoy the rest of y'all football Thursday night. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Tell